mighty ones may thrive and be happy. Prometheus made no answer, but he had set his heart on helping mankind, and he did not give up. He turned away and left Jupiter and his mighty company forever. As he was walking by the shore of the sea, he found a reed, or as some say, a tall stalk of fennel growing. And when he had broken it off, he saw that its hollow center was filled with a dry, soft pith, which would burn slowly and keep on fire. A long time he took the long stalk in his hands and started with it towards the dwelling of the sun. In the far east, mankind shall have fire, in spite of the tyrant who sits on the mountaintop. He said he reached the place of the sun in the early morning, just as the glowing golden orb was rising from the earth, and beginning his daily journey through the sky. He touched the end of the long reed to the flames, and the dry pith caught on fire and burned slowly. Then he turned and hastened back to his own land, carrying with him the precious spark hidden in the hollow center of the plant. He called some of the shivering men from their caves and built a fire for them, and showed them how to warm themselves by it, and how to build other fires from the coals. Soon there was a cheerful blaze in every rude home in the land, and men and women gathered round it and were warm and happy and thankful to Prometheus for the wonderful gift which he had brought to them from the sun. It was not long until they learned to cook their food, and so to eat like men instead of like beasts. They began at once to leave off their wild and savage habits, and instead of lurking in the dark places of the world, they came out into the open air and the bright sunlight, and were glad because life had been given to them. After that Prometheus taught them little by little. 1,000 things he showed them: how to build houses of wood and stone, and how to tame sheep and cattle and make them useful, and how to plow and sow and reap, and how to protect themselves from the storms of winter and the beasts of the woods. Then he showed them how to dig in the earth for copper and iron, and how to melt the ore, and how to hammer it into shape and fashion from it the tools and weapons which they needed in peace and war. And when he saw how happy the world was becoming, he cried out, "A new golden age shall come, brighter and better by far than the old things might have gone on very happily indeed, and the golden age might really have come again had it not been for Jupiter." But one day, when he chanced to look down upon the earth, he saw the fires burning and the people living in houses, and the flocks feeding on the hills, and the grain ripening in the fields. And this made him very angry. "Who has done all this?" he asked. And someone answered Prometheus, "What, that young Titan?" He cried, "Well, I will punish him in a way that will make him wish I had shut him up in the prison house with his kinfolk. But as for those puny men, let them keep their fire. I will make them 10 times more miserable than they were before they had it." Of course, it would be easy enough to deal with Prometheus at any time, and so Jupiter was in no great haste about it. He made up his mind to distress mankind first, and he thought of a plan for doing it in a very strange roundabout way. In the first place, he ordered his blacksmith Vulcan, whose forge was in the crater of a burning mountain, to take a lump of clay, which he gave him, and mold it into the form of a woman. Vulcan did as he was bidden, and when he had finished the image, he carried it up to Jupiter, who was sitting among the clouds with all the mighty folk around him. It was nothing but a mere lifeless body, but the great blacksmith had given it a form, more perfect than that of any statue that has ever been made. "Come," now said Jupiter, "let us all give some goodly gift to this woman." And he began by giving her life. Then the others came in their turn, each with a gift. For the marvelous creature, one gave her beauty, and another a pleasant voice, and another good manners, and another a kind heart, and another skill in many arts. And lastly, someone gave her curiosity, Then they called her Pandora, which means the all-gifted, because she had received gifts from them all. Pandora was so beautiful and so wondrously gifted that no one could help loving her. When the mighty folk had admired her, for a time they gave her to Mercury the light-footed, and he led her down the mountainside to the place where Prometheus and his brother were living and toiling for the good of mankind. He met Prometheus first and said to him, "Prometheus, here is a beautiful woman whom Jupiter has sent to you to be your wife." Prometheus had often warned his brother to beware of any gift that Jupiter might send for. He knew that the mighty tyrant could not be trusted. But when Prometheus saw Pandora, how lovely and wise she was, he forgot all warnings and took her home to live with him and be his wife. Pandora was very happy in her new home, and even Prometheus, when he saw her, was pleased with her loveliness. She had brought with her a golden casket, which Jupiter had given her at parting, and which he had told her held many precious things. But wise Athena, the queen of the air, had warned her never to open it nor look at the things inside. "They must be jewels," she said to herself, and then she thought of how they would add to her beauty if only she could wear them. Why did Jupiter give them to me, if I should never use them, nor so much as look at them? She asked. The more she thought about the golden casket, the more curious she was to see what was in it, and every day she took it down from its shelf and felt of the lid and tried to peer inside of it without opening it. "Why should I care for what Athena told me?" she said at last. "She is not beautiful,